Hey all, welcome back to the channel, welcome to Monday, welcome to Countdown Day. And this is an interesting one. It was suggested to us by our buddy Gabriel, and the best way that we were able to come up with to word it is top 10 reimaginings of characters, top 10 reimaginings of Transformers characters that were already established, right? So they had an established iteration of themselves, and this was a reimagined version of that character. Very, very, very challenging with the voting here, I'm not going to lie. So top 10 reimagined Transformers. That's going to be our focus this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey all. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, ladder my baby. Hit that notification bell, please, as it helps me out a ton, and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that in the description down below. Also in the description down below, and if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link, check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course, hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. Now this is a bit of a confusing one, because it is the most successful reimaginings of a character. And some people, I think, were a bit confused when it came to the voting. So they would say, like, Bumblebee has been reimagined a bunch of times. And if the question was character that has had the most reimaginings, then yeah, Bumblebee would be there, Optimus Prime would be there. But this is the reimagining that's the most successful. So if we're saying Optimus Prime, perhaps a bunch of people voted for animated Optimus Prime. Somebody else voted for Armada Optimus Prime. Somebody else voted for Prime Optimus Prime. So it's the most successful reimagining of a character. Let's do the honorable mentions. Maybe that will clear it up. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It seems, yeah, 6. Before we get to the actual list, the first two are Siege Jetfire and the Revenge of the Fallen Jetfire. Both of these, of course, sprung from the original G1 Jetfire, who we all know from Fire in the Sky, Trapped in the Ice, whereas the Siege was like a leader of the Seekers, whereas, you know, in the movie, he is Old Man Jetfire, so they're all Jetfire, but it's definitely reimagined versions of said character. Transformers Prime Shockwave, certainly not like animated or G1 Shockwave, other than look. Animated Blitzwing, big departure from the G1 Blitzwing. Animated Bulkhead, I like this one, IDW Starsaber. Instead of being the heroic, you know, swordsman, Autobot leader, great leader from Victory, he is a religious zealot, from what I understand. And I think that's it. That's it. None of them made the final list, so who did? You know what we're going to do. We're going to kick things off, as we always do, with number 10 first. Number 10 takes us back to Transformers Prime and Starscream. Yeah, Starscream, definitely revision from earlier versions thereof. I mean, the G1 was very loud, very boisterous, very ambitious, and this guy is still very ambitious. The animated, for example, was more lanky and thin and conniving. This guy definitely conniving. He takes the best parts, and I suppose we really have to accredit the writers and Steve Bloom, who was the voice actor. They take the best parts of earlier iterations of Starscream and bring them together here in one that's still very ambitious, still very conniving, still very two-faced and backstabbing, but he does it with an air of class and an air of panache, even if he is still a coward. I would venture to say that for most fans, not all, but for most fans, I would venture to say that outside of G1 Starscream, Transformers Prime Starscream, probably a fan favorite iteration of this classic character, and he took the number 10 spot for reimagined Transformers. Coming in at number 9, we have War for Cybertron Barricade. Certainly very different from his G1 Micromaster version, where he was a race car and cruel to his other 3 members that were his underlings. This time he is certainly a loyal follower of Megatron, and he is a full-sized police car, very much in the vein and in the brothership and brotherhood of, you know, Blue Streak and Silver Streak, if you consider them separate characters. You know, Prowl, Smokescreen, like yeah. I mean, I get it. This makes sense. You know, certainly following in the lines of Prowl being a police car. Yeah, War for Cybertron Barricade. Popularized now as a police car as full-sized. And he takes the number 9 slot. Number 8 was bound to be on this list, I think, just by fate and popularity. It's Bayverse Bumblebee. Yeah, the live-action movie Bumblebee, right? And we all know that the traditional Bumblebee, my Bumblebee, even though I still don't like Bumblebee, is the original G1 that turns into a Volkswagen Bug. Naturally, by the movies, he became a Camaro. Very, very different. Really, very, very different. Yeah, I mean, a lot of elements here of Transformers Prime. You know, the whole not being able to talk and whatnot. Being a completely different car mode. The guy got door wings now. He's not a mini-bot. He's more full-sized. He's still, I think he's still a scout, but he definitely has a lot more battle skill. And he's definitely a lot more impetuous for action. So, yeah, completely revision. Different car, different bot, different look. I mean, anybody who only knows G1 Bumblebee, if you showed them this and said, what character is this? I don't think they would ever guess that it's Bumblebee. Taking everything that we knew about Bumblebee and turning it completely on its ear for the live-action universe. But, that being said, very, very popularized in the world over now. Millions, if not billions of fans know this body type, this look to be Bumblebee. And for that reason, he takes the number 8 slot. Now, number 7, I actually really kind of debated on. I had discussed it with a few people. I decided that I would include it, but I don't feel good including it because I actually consider this to be 2 separate characters. And the other 3 people I talked to said, no, include it. So it was like a majority association, I suppose, of people that I referred to who said to include it. So I said, I will, but with the caveat that I don't personally think it should be included because I think it's a completely separate character. So for me, at the, what are we at, 7? At the number 7 slot, I would actually personally slot in one of the honorable mentions. Personally, I would slot in Starsaber, being completely different from hero to villain. But nevertheless, that's not the way the voting went. The official voting has, at number 7, Beast Wars Inferno. We all know the original Inferno is a fire truck and an Autobot. This guy is a fire ant and a Predacon, so he's got from good to bad. He's a little more maniacal. Of course, we all know he calls Beast Wars Megatron his queen. I think that a more accurate round of voting for G1 Inferno would have been something like the Combiner Wars Inferno, where it's still Inferno, but now he's a combiner, right? That would have made sense to me. I feel like that this really shouldn't be here because it's a different character, but I deferred to some other people in terms of the voting. They said include it. I don't know. Do you think like the voters and think this guy was okay to include, or do you think like me and think that the number 7 slot probably should have went to somebody else? Maybe a Starsaber, you know? It's debatable. But as it officially stands, based on the votes, Beast Wars Inferno takes the number 7 slot. Coming in at number 6, we have Megatron. Indeed, he has been revisioned many times, as we know, but specifically, and to be fair, I just like anytime I get an excuse to take out Toy World's Hegemon. He's great. Even all these years later, even with his imperfections, he's great. But at number 6, officially based on the votes, the revisioning that took it is, in fact, IDW Megatron. The Megatron that really became kind of a fallen hero, really kind of realized like, hey, there's a different way of doing things. It's the one where he became an Autobot. And truth be told, a lot of people that voted for that said it was the beginning of Megatron not just being a tyrannical leader. It is the beginning that has fed other iterations of Megatron being revisioned as maybe he's not all bad. A la the Prime Wars trilogy, where he kind of went off by himself. A la like Earthspark, where he kind of works with Optimus in post-war. I would say that that whole idea really started in the movie Predacons Rising, where he disbanded the Decepticons and said that he had lost his taste for tyranny or domination or whatever it was. But I guess a lot of people don't remember Predacons Rising because they attribute his change of heart to IDW. This was about the most popular, the most successful revisioning, not the first revisioning, and the most successful and widely recognized and widely known piece of fiction or revisioning where Megatron sees kinda the error of his ways, if you will, would be the IDW Megatron. And for that reason, he takes the number 6 slot. And here we are at the ever popular, ever coveted halfway mark. And at the halfway mark, we have an iteration of a character that went from, well, kind of jovial, pink and white car to a brash, maybe somewhat broken, biker chick. Of course, it is Transformers Prime Arcee. And I say broken because of her kind of long-standing unwillingness to really have another partner after everything that happened with Cliffjumper, her evolution of her relationship with Jack Darby, and other team members for that matter. She was so standoffish, but then she was also very skilled and capable when it came to espionage and battle. She wasn't a pretty face. She was a very skilled Autobot. Looked totally different. The smaller, sleeker motorcycle mode, I think, worked very well. And to be fair, later on, we would see tougher versions of Arcee who looked like the G1 Arcee, and the G1 Arcee had her highlights as well. I mean, she was no one to mess with either. But certainly the IDW Arcee, a much deeper character. Certainly even in the War for Cybertron trilogy, she's tougher and certainly takes more risks. But the best known iteration of that, I'll say, tough, don't discount her, don't underestimate her, iteration of Arcee really has to relate to the Transformers Prime version. Not gonna lie, I love this iteration of Arcee myself as well. And for that reason, she takes the number 5 slot. And here we are at number 4, and number 4 is another Barricade. Yes, indeed, it is another Barricade. This is the live action movie version of Barricade again. This is very different from the G1 version where he was a Micromaster. This is absolutely, and you'll notice the version I have is not like the Last Night version, though I like that version of Barricade. A lot of people who voted said the first trilogy version of Barricade. I don't know if it makes a difference, honestly, like police car movie Barricade, right? But nevertheless, I have this one here in my hand, so I might as well use it. It was the first time that Barricade became a full-sized Transformer. It was a rarity to have a Decepticon be a car, though it makes sense for the live action movie, it's just easier. And to make him a police car, someone that you should, be able to trust, to go to with your problems and stuff. And to make it a Decepticon, man, it was a stroke of brilliance. It was a stroke of genius. And honestly, it was going to make this guy be remembered way more than his Micromaster iteration. There's a lot of people that had no idea he was even in G1 or had a Micromaster iteration. The only Barricade, the first Barricade that a lot of people know is this guy. He's definitely the most popular Barricade. So much so that even the War for Cybertron version, which we saw on this list earlier and also got enough votes to be on the list, was really a derivation of this version as well. Man, Barricade, what a wild ride he has been. And the live action movie, specifically the first trilogy version of him, takes the number 4 slot. And boy, oh boy, here we are at the top 3. And at number 3 is one of my favorites, and I bet it's one of your favorites too, Transformers Prime Soundwave. We all know that this is definitely a derivation of the G1 Soundwave. The animated was a huge derivation from the G1 Soundwave as well. But this is so totally different. Almost really unrecognizable as Soundwave. But gained a real cult following. It made sense in G1, I suppose, for him to turn into like a recording device because it was the technology of the time. This version really gained popularity at first because a lot of people said, oh man, he's a drone. Yeah, it matches the espionage technology of the time. He's silent. A very different take on him because though he was always somewhat quiet and had ears everywhere, he was never really silent. We all know his classic voice, right? And he certainly wasn't silent in animated, as I recall. But very silent here. I don't know if he says anything other than Autobots inferior, Soundwave superior. I don't know if he says anything else in the series besides that, but he is considered dangerous, capable, menacing, frightening. If there was ever like a horror movie version of Soundwave, this would be it. Opening the space bridges at will, getting himself trapped in the Phantom Zone. I'm calling it Phantom Zone. I don't know what we call it. That alternate universe where like Skyquake Zombie was, right? Coming back out in Cyberverse and being a huge threat again. Or not Cyberverse, RID 2015. And being a huge threat again. Cyberverse was a completely more bombastic version. This is one of those characters that have been revisioned many times. But none of those revisionings, not in the movies, not in animated, not in Cyberverse, not in even RID 2015, can compare to the menacing, frightening nature that he was able to exude without really saying a word in Transformers Prime. He listened to everything. Plus, he's a character not only revisioned himself, but it meant that Ravage would be revisioned a little bit. It meant Laserbeak, who's on his chest here, would be revisioned a little bit. It leads to the revisioning of other characters associated with him. There's a lot to unpack about Transformers Prime Soundwave, but undoubtedly, the fans, and I agree with them wholeheartedly, that this iteration of Soundwave is one of the absolute best, and for that reason he takes the number 3 slot. Coming in at number 2, almost at the top. In fact, number 1 and number 2 are separated by 1 vote. That's how close the race was this time. I love when it's close like that. But number 2 is, well, this guy. That's right, it is animated Prowl. And I think we all know that G1 Prowl, I mean, he was great, and we know he's been revisioned in IDW certainly as more ruthless, we'll say, to say the very least, and revisioned some other times, but none more successful and none more popular than animated Prowl. Of course, somewhat of a master, not quite a master, of Metallicato and Circuit Sue. He can use holograms, he has a jetpack, very skilled, but at the same time very peaceful, very much seeking to have harmony with Earth's nature. And also seeking redemption after he kind of ended his studies in disgrace because there was something about him having to protect like some baby protoforms or something, and like he failed in doing that and he ended up leaving in disgrace. Always seeking redemption. The character arc, the character story for this guy is crazy good. Really crazy good. One of the best among all of Transformers. And by the fact, not only of him looking different, not only being a ninja, not only, I guess, being more fleshed out, not only having a different look, but just by the mere fact that he is such a well-developed character, puts him head and shoulders above his previous, probably best-known version, that being the G1. Yeah, animated Prowl takes the number 2 slot. And boy, oh boy, here we are at the very tippy top of revisionings, reimaginings of well-known, famous, fan-favorite Transformers characters. And I find this one so interesting because we really get to kind of bookend this countdown in a really nice way. Number 10 was Transformers Prime Starscream. Number 1 is Armada Starscream. 2 Starscream reimaginings at the end and at the beginning and at the end. And this is, of course, the earlier Deluxe Generations one. I mean, Armada's not really my thing, but one of the scraplets owns this. Will I ever look at the Voyager? I mean, I'm not planning on it, but if it ever happens to come, come my way in my hands, sure, I'll take a look at it. Why not? In terms of the character, because that's what this is about. In terms of the character, this one's so very different. He ends up really becoming a hero of Armada, going up against Unicron by himself, making the ultimate of sacrifices in the name of trying to save humanity and be a hero. Very, very unlike the G1 version of Starscream, which this kind of followed, right? The G1 version we knew to be underhanded, to be self-serving, to be cowardly, to be evil, to be treacherous. And the Armada version took all of those characterizations of Starscream and turned them all on their ear. Yes, you look at this and you can still recognize that it's red, it's gray, it's probably a Seeker, it's probably a Starscream. But the evolution of his character through that series, it's almost like they took, here's a personality characteristic of Starscream, what's the opposite of that characteristic? That's what we're aiming to go to. Well-developed character, a very outlandish, different version of this well-known, well-loved Decepticon lieutenant. Yeah, Armada Starscream took the number 1 slot. And there you have it. We've gone from 10 down to 1 once again. There were so many wonderful votes. Fall of Cybertron, War for Cybertron, Trypticon had votes. Animated Black Arachnia. IDW Perceptor being the one-eyed sniper guy, right? Armada Thrust. IDW Grimlock. Animated Arcee, who I think was a teacher, if I'm not mistaken. Animated Wreckgar being the garbage truck. Dumb as a stump, but hilarious. Bayverse Optimus Prime. Prime Breakdown. Not the traditional Stunticon limb, and certainly not a Lamborghini. Prime Wheeljack. Prime Bulkhead. Who else had votes here? Age of Extinction Galvatron. IDW Skids. IDW Starscream. RID Steeljaw. Very different when we think of the original cassette bot being Steeljaw, or even the minions of Lockdown in the movie being Steeljaws. What else? War for Cybertron Starscream, the Tetrajet version, right? Prime Ratchet, another fan favorite. G2 Megatron becoming for the first time a tank. IDW Ultra Magnus with the twist of Minimus Ambus and the whole lineage of the Magni, so to speak. Cybertron Megatron and Cybertron Galvatron. And who else? Bayverse Soundwave being a Mercedes. Them and more were on the list. Thank you for coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. Did your favorites make the list? Final list? Let me know. Again, I appreciate each and every single solitary one of you, man. I'm telling you right now. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course hit the join button right here on YouTube. Please, while you're at it, hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel, and especially don't forget, man, that somehow, some way, you right there, each and every single solitary one of you, you do make a difference in the world, and I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way right here inside the videos.